Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Today, Thursday, the 29th of April, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation of 16 new cases of COVID-19 from a batch of 188 samples taken on the 26th and 27th of April. The health team is currently undertaking contact tracing for these new cases. Confirmation was also received of the recovery of 7 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19, bringing the total number of active cases to 98. Presently, all of the active cases are doing well. The new cases bring the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 4,534. The Civil Service Association CSA continues to express concern about the transitioning to the Millennium Heights Medical Complex. The bargaining body for public health workers has written to the Ministry of Health outlining the concern of its members. The ongoing employment transition process formally began on the 1st of April. Since then, employees have raised significant concerns ranging from working benefits to salary reduction. Now the employees and their bargaining agent are seeking further clarification by engaging the Ministry of Health. Genevieve Gonzague reports.
The St. Lucia Civil Service Association has expressed that many members have serious concerns about the transition from the OKEU Hospital, the Victoria Hospital, Turning Point and the Wellness Center to the Millennium Heights Medical Complex. Secretary General of the CSA, Claude Paul, has called for a meeting to be held with Departments of Health and the Public Services, the Board of the MHMC and the CSA to hash out the issues and to come up with a compromise that will benefit all parties.
But fundamentally, we believe that our workers should not be placed at a disadvantage by the move that is being made, and so the at least 12 or so complaints that they have brought to our attention have been placed into a letter and has been dispatched to the Ministry of Health for immediate attention. We are suggesting that there should be a meeting of the parties so that we can find solutions to those problems which have been highlighted.
The concerns raised include vacation, payment of overtime, and reduction in salary in some cases.
One of them being the question of the treatment of overtime. Now we are quite clear in terms of what the Labour Act contains as far as overtime is concerned. And in instances where days off will be given in lieu of overtime, it has to be a mutual agreement between the employer and the employee. So it cannot be imposed, and some parts of the contract appear to be taking a position which I think is skewed in favor of the employer. And the workers found some of the provisions in there a bit offensive and disturbing to them.
The CSA General Secretary says many people are reluctant to sign in the contract because they are not comfortable with the wording of the contract. Paul says the matter requires further discussion and consultation.
The main issue for them is here we have persons who are currently in jobs with tenure, a long-term tenure. Sometimes it's 55 or 65, depending on whether they are pensionable or not. And while the Act clearly speaks to the treatment of pensionable officers, it does not clearly speak to what would happen if a non-pensionable officer returns to the public service after a stint with the Millennium Heights Medical Complex.
He underscores the need to clear up doubt and concern before moving forward. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
The President of the National Council on Public Transportation, Godfrey Ferdinand, is giving his assurance to minibus operators that the long-awaited fuel rebate, which has been pending since 2019, will be paid to them shortly. Ferdinand wants operators to ignore speculations surrounding the connection between politics and the payment.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to evolve, the global public health risk remains very high. The resurgence in the last 4 months is driven by the emergence of the SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern and inconsistent use of public health and social measures. While St. Lucia notes a decrease in new cases diagnosed, reduced number of people with respiratory illness, reduced admissions at the respiratory hospital, and reduced numbers accessing care at the clinics, health officials have advised that COVID-19 still remains a threat. Prime Minister Chasney says this is so as some in society continue to listen to false information surrounding COVID-19. He shared the sentiments at a recent initiative for COVID infection prevention among MSMEs.
COVID remains an issue here in St. Lucia. We still see on a daily basis numbers of cases. While the numbers have come down significantly, we have certainly not eliminated COVID from our borders. And as we had initially anticipated, that given the high level of non-communicable diseases that we had in St. Lucia, particularly hypertension as well as diabetes, that many of our members of our population would be vulnerable to COVID. And when you combine that with the fact that we have the same way that we say that we have anti-vaxxers, we also have people who are anti-hospitalizations, meaning there are people who get sick and are fearful to go and see a doctor and go and get medical attention. And certainly if you have an underlying condition and you contract COVID and you wait too long, it makes any form of recovery very difficult. And sadly, even in the early days, there are indications that there will be many lingering side effects of persons who are vulnerable and who've contracted COVID. And so that we must continue to do everything we can to minimize the spread of COVID in our country.
PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne says it is imperative that people take the COVID-19 vaccine to bring cases under control, and notes the challenges with anti-vaccination messages.
Because unreliable information spreads quickly, PAHO is collaborating with tech companies like Twitter, Google, and Facebook to address fake news and to ensure that the public can easily find accurate information. But we all have a role to play in stopping these rumors from spreading online or in conversations. When we read or hear something that seems outlandish or impossible, it probably is. Before sharing something, we owe it to each other to check the source and confirm that the information is true. This is only common courtesy. And if you have a doubt, please don't spread it.
The director is concerned that the Americas is experiencing setbacks due to the pandemic and highlights the tragic milestone of more than 3 million deaths from COVID-19, nearly half in the Americas. She says it is a reminder that we must do more to protect each other at this very critical stage.
Cases in Canada are still growing, particularly among young people in their 20s and 30s. And in the United States, infections are on the rise after weeks of declines. Nearly every country in Central America is reporting a rise in infections. Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic continue to drive most infections in the Caribbean. And many smaller island nations like Aruba, Bermuda, and Curacao are reporting a rise in COVID-related deaths. The recent volcanic eruptions in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have led to evacuations, with thousands of people currently living in shelters. More than 137 COVID cases have been reported in shelters thus far, and we expect more new infections in the coming weeks. In South America, cases are accelerating in Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Uruguay. Argentina has also seen a rapid growth of new infections and has assumed the third highest case count in our region.
In the last week alone, the Americas has reported more than 1.5 million new cases and nearly 40,000 deaths. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
Videos went viral of what many thought was a tornado. The St. Lucia Met Services says what was seen was a waterspout. Andre Joye says while a waterspout is in essence a tornado on sea, it poses no threat to land. He says such occurrences are frequent.
Social media has been abuzz following the release of videos that portray what many thought was a tornado in Babono. On Wednesday, Director of the Met Services, Andre Joyer, explained what the phenomenon actually was.
It was a photo of a water spout, which really and truly is a tornado on the sea. But because of our location, these water spouts do not pose significant threat to land. The fact that we're so far south, close to the equator, is very difficult for a tornado to occur. Difficult, but not impossible. Now, a tornado, one of the requirements is that it has to have a flat surface to develop. Right? So the sea is a likelier place for it to happen.
He explained that while waterspouts pose no significant issues to land masses, individuals who venture out to sea need to ensure they do not intentionally cross paths with the spouts.
It's a regular occurrence at sea, right? But it does not affect land, per se. If they were to be under the waterspout, but I do not think persons in their right mind would see a waterspout and go towards it. So they can easily avoid the waterspout.
Waterspouts typically occur when cold air moves across the Great Lakes and results in large temperature differences between the warm water and the overriding cold air. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
Meanwhile, the Met Office is giving an explanation for the recent inclement weather being experienced island-wide over the past few days.
St. Lucians should expect a few days of rainy weather, according to the St. Lucia Meteorological Office on Thursday morning. The statement was made by the director of the local Met Services, Andre Joyer, in relation to the heavy rains that the island has been experiencing since Wednesday evening. Joyer gave the latest update explaining the inclement weather.
As of today, Thursday, the 29th of April, 2021, we had a mid to upper level trough system together with an upper level jet stream, which is causing cloudiness, showers, and isolated thunderstorms over the Eastern Caribbean region. At 8 a.m. today, the rainfall recorded at Hirano Airport was 31.7 millimeters and at George Charles Airport 6.3 millimeters. We're expecting over the Dennery area there was significantly higher rainfall since there are reports of flooding. The models are showing that this system will remain in our vicinity for the next 3 to 4 days. So, in effect, this is going to cause scattered showers over the next couple of days. So, the weather report is for generally cloudy with scattered light to moderate showers and isolated thunderstorms.
Joyer said with the coming rains, residents of vulnerable areas should take precautions.
We are asking residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides to continue to exercise caution. And as some areas are already saturated, we are expecting that any further rainfall would cause landslides or flooding.
Photographs and videos of landslides and flooding as a result of the recent rains have already begun circulation via social media. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Heavy rains in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are making an already bad situation worse. The island, which has been affected by eruptions of the La Soufre volcano, now has to deal with destructive mud flows on the slopes of the volcano.
While seismic activity at the La Soufre volcano in St. Vincent has been low over the past few days, heavy rainfall is posing danger across the island, particularly to those living in the red and orange hazard zones. Since Tuesday, April 27th, the island has been experiencing lava flows, a dense mixture of ash and water, down the flanks of the volcano, creating mudslides, destroying everything in its path. Seismologist Roderick Stewart says between Wednesday and Thursday morning, several had taken place.
And our seismometers have been picking up signals from lahars in several locations. So we suspect there are lahars in all the major drainage valleys and that these may have caused quite a lot of damage as they pass down from the volcano to the sea. And at the moment, the signals are dying down a little bit, but it really depends on the rainfall. If there's more rain to come, we could expect more lahars during the day.
Along with the lahars, heavy rains have caused intense flooding, landslides and destruction to bridges. Stewart says that as long as heavy rains persist, the lahars will continue.
If people heard noises, and we heard noises here as well at Belmont, it is actually the lahars going on and thunder and lightning associated with the rain. The lahars consist of a lot of material in the water. Richard Robertson is currently down in Richmond having a look at these, and it brings trees down with it. And the amount of material that is being brought down, anytime the lahar goes round a bend or goes over some topography, it will make thumping noises basically, and these can be heard quite a long way away. So,
according to forecasts from St. Vincent's Met Services, occasional showers are expected to continue until the end of the week. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. There's more coming up after the break.